Hello and welcome to SaltWire today for Thursday, September 29th. I'm your host, Kate Walker. The family of a 75-year-old woman is demanding answers after they say she was discharged from the Dartmouth General Hospital last Friday night during the approach of Hurricane Fiona and walked alone for 3 hours before arriving home.
The wind was something else. I know I fell once. I could have fallen a couple of other times, but I found a stick. It was about that high. And when the wind was coming, I remember turning around to the wind and sticking the stick in and bracing myself. And going down the hills, the wind would come behind me. Then I felt the pain in my knees because it was going too fast for me.
Del Sesto was taken to the hospital's ER by police after suffering a mental health crisis. Her husband says he made 2 calls to the hospital that evening, asking to be contacted if they decided to release his wife, but that he was never contacted. He says she wound up at their apartment in Highfield Park Drive at about 1 a.m., 3 hours after she was discharged from hospital.
And I opened the door, and she was standing there, soaking wet, shaking worse than I'd ever seen anybody shake before. And she was still not coherent when she walked through the door.
Del Sesto has several serious medical conditions, including chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, rheumatoid arthritis, and osteoporosis.
They should have made sure that I had my way home. I wasn't thinking, I mean, I know I had my daughter's number. It's all I know is there was nobody there. There was nobody there. Nobody said, there's somebody coming for me. All I wanted to do was go home, and that was the only way to go home. I got lost a couple of times. I just wanted to go home.
The woman's husband says the hospital was negligent in letting his wife leave unaccompanied during a hurricane. He and the couple's daughter, Angelita Sparks, are looking to get an apology from the hospital and assurance that a similar incident won't happen again. Post-Fiona cleanup continues across the Atlantic region today. Federal Defense Minister Anita Anand arrived in Pictou County today with Minister of Immigration Sean Fraser to meet some of the more than 700 members of the Canadian Armed Forces who are here to help.
I was born in Nova Scotia. I was born in Pictou, Nova Scotia. I lived here for 18 years, came back here for law school. And I've never seen damage like this to our province. I'd just like to say that when a storm like Fiona hits, whether it's Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, or PEI, or Ile de Madeleine, we're here, and the Canadian Armed Forces is here.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau visited Ile de la Madeleine today, meeting with people impacted by the hurricane. Yesterday in Port aux Basques, Newfoundland, Trudeau toured some of the areas hit hardest by the hurricane and spoke to local officials about the road ahead.
I lost 2 houses and a shed. All I got was some pair of old sneakers, a pair of gym pants, and this, and a hoodie. My friends is bringing me all new stuff, so that's not too bad.
The federal government has now matched public donations to the Red Cross of $10 million. In Halifax, crews are still busy cleaning up and restoring power and cell service. As of this afternoon, just under 3,000 people across HRM were still in the dark. Nova Scotia Premier Tim Houston announced a one-time grant of $2,500 to small business owners today to help offset the cost of unanticipated closures. The province has also launched a new website where Nova Scotians can now apply for financial assistance. Next to Truro, where there's still many questions on how the town's post-storm closures will affect the community. SaltWire Scott Squires caught up with one local MLA for a better look at what's to come. Scott.
Thanks, Kate. While Truro and the surrounding area continues to recover in the wake of Hurricane Fiona, this area of Lorne Street still has some concerns for local residents. Cobequid Educational Centre High School, Colchester Legion Stadium, and the Cougar Dome are 3 buildings grouped closely together on this street. I spoke with local MLA Dave Ritzie about the status of those buildings.
The damage is unbelievable, to be honest with you. I mean, that stadium's been around since 1965 with some additions and some maintenance over the years. But you know what? It's good structurally, what I'm hearing, and it's just a matter of what it looks like inside. And obviously the roof. So that's going to take some time. Cobequid Educational Center, there's some damage in and around the school, and it will gradually come to life, but I think it all ties into one, right? I mean, both buildings got hit fairly hard because of this enormous storm that came through.
Don Cameron is a board member for the Cougar Dome, and he was helping out with cleanup operations today.
Well, in preparation for the hurricane, the board decided we would play it safe and deflate the dome in controlled conditions. Because of the rain that came down as a result of the hurricane and post, there's quite a buildup of water on the dome. So the idea is to try and get as much water off the dome in advance of it reinflating, because sometimes the water can cause damage by coming into the dome, in through any openings, and then cause damage to the turf and the courts afterwards. So we're trying to prevent any damage in advance by removing the water.
Residents are hopeful that these buildings can get back and be operational sooner rather than later. In Truro, I'm Scott Squires for the SaltWire Network.
With the thousands of downed trees since the hurricane, chainsaws have been a popular tool this week to clear the debris, but cautionary tales are also being told after several reported injuries. SaltWire's Aaron Beswick has more on safety tips when cleaning up after the storm.
As neighbours seek to help neighbours clean up after the storm, there's also been an increase in chainsaw injuries. SaltWire went to visit longtime harvester Danny George in Guysborough County. Get some tips on the safe operation of one of the most dangerous power tools.
The boots with the pads from your toes back, that's the one that a lot of people overlook. And I had a friend of mine years ago, he cut off 4 tendons in the 4 toes next to his big toe as a result of not having those pads, and he was well experienced. Just a mistake. Avoid kickbacks, avoid hitting the end of your bar. That's critical. You just can't, say, cut down from the top very often, but ideally, I'm going to show you here, you'll make a cut up in maybe 20%, 15-20%, and then make your down cut. And at that time, that's when you got to be real careful and making sure it's not caught up here on something that's going to get you in trouble. As much as you can keep that on that side, and you can use the trunk of the tree, particularly if you're running a heavy saw like this, to take some of the load off your body, right? If you are going to back cut it, but make sure that it's away from you, like 2 feet, 1.5 feet, whatever you can get. But don't do a back cut in here next to your body. I've cut through the safety pants before with an 80cc chainsaw. Wasn't much, 7-8 stitches, but if I hadn't had the pants on, I probably would have lost my leg. And it doesn't matter how long you've used one of these, there's still anybody, I mean, I can make a mistake just as easy as somebody else. But you're even more susceptible if you can't anticipate the accident that could happen.
This is Aaron Beswick reporting for the SaltWire Network.
A 13-ton schooner is safely ashore today after it was ripped from its mooring in St. Margaret's Bay and flooded by Hurricane Fiona. It took 8 people, a rescue boat, a barge, and a crane to lift the 12-meter vessel. Gas-powered pumps had to drain seawater nearly 1 meter deep from inside it. Luckily, its starboard side had tipped onto a sandy bottom, and there wasn't too much damage to the wood. The schooner will soon be back with her owner for repair. The Nova Scotia government gave its first budget forecast today, projecting a $48 million raise in the provincial deficit that would bring the province's balance to $554.2 million in the red for the next year. There was also some good news. Average weekly earnings in Nova Scotia rose 4% in the first half of this year. Retail, food, and drink sales also went up, and residential construction for new housing jumped nearly 40% this year as compared to 2021. A heads up to drivers, the McDonald Bridge will shut down tonight at 7 o'clock and stay closed for the rest of the weekend. It's expected to reopen Monday at 5:30 a.m. It's one of 5 planned closures for the bridge, including Thanksgiving weekend. The bike lane and sidewalk will stay open. It's time for Prices at the Pumps with fuel price insider Dan McTagg. Dan tells us where he feels gas and diesel prices are headed at midnight in Nova Scotia.
Probably about a 2.5, maybe even a 3 cent a liter increase, and none of it related to the Hurricane Fiona or even Ian. Diesel would be up by about 4, maybe even 5 cents a liter. So if you have to get either one of those, might be, if you can get it today, fill up or get as much as you can, but don't hoard, given the circumstances. As far as heating oil, that too is going to be up, but probably a little bit more, closer to 6 or 7 cents. All of that is reflecting what's happened in the markets of the past week, in which oil and petroleum products have recovered. Oil has gone up $6 a barrel. It's likely to go up even higher as we go through next week.
And Dan will be back next week on Prices at the Pumps. This weekend, a hit comedy series shot in Nova Scotia returns to TV screens across Canada as Moonshine begins its second season on CBC and CBC Gem. The antics of the Finley Cullen family and their rundown South Shore vacation resort kick into gear on Sunday night. And SaltWire Network Stephen Cook talked to cast members Jennifer Finnegan and Alan Hocko to find out what we can expect.
In Season 1 of Moonshine, Canadian viewers were introduced to the fictional community of Foxton on Nova Scotia's South Shore, and the dysfunctional Finley Cullen family, which runs its seaside holiday resort. The show proved to be a hilarious and occasionally heartwarming tale of sibling squabbles and the questionable activities they undertake to keep the Moonshine Resort afloat. With Season 2 starting up this weekend and a third season greenlit for next year, cast members Jennifer Finnegan and Alan Hocko say fans of the show can feel it getting into a new groove as the new episodes unspool.
Season 1 was almost like a discovery of, well, not just who our characters are, but what is the tone of this show? And it was something that we all struggled with and questioned, because we were like, is this a comedy? Is this a drama? Where are we, like, in what plane are we existing? And how do we meld the two so that it still has this sort of outlandish feel at times, but also grounded in reality?
A familiar face from shows like Republic of Doyle and Caught, Hocko appeared briefly at the end of Season 1 of Moonshine as biker gang honcho Gale, whose shady dealings helped the Finley Cullens out of a tight spot. As Season 2 begins, the attraction between Gale and Finnegan's uptight architect Lydia doesn't take long to ignite into a passionate affair.
I feel like Gale is so drawn to Lydia because she is something he always wished he could be with, someone so sophisticated and intelligent and outside the criminal world. And Lydia's got all of that. And then she's a mess and wants to be a criminal at the same time. It's like drawn to it. It's like they're a perfect match in Gale's mind.
Moonshine is currently filming Season 3 around Hubbard's, and it was a different kind of gale that put a stop to cameras rolling when Tropical Storm Fiona blew through Atlantic Canada on the weekend. Finnegan says they all lost power, but like the family on the show, everyone stuck together.
We were all texting each other and we're like, okay, meet at Anastasia's. We all met there. We brought like whatever supplies we had. We huddled around the wood oven. It was so warm and cozy. We had no power. We drank wine. We cooked on a barbecue. We used buckets of, bath water to flush the toilets.
Season 2 of Moonshine begins on Sunday night at 9 p.m. on CBC and streams on CBC Gem. I'm Stephen Cook for the SaltWire Network.
It's time now for a glimpse of today's Thinking Out Loud with Sheldon McLeod. Today, Sheldon is speaking with casting agent Aaron Hennessy on the booming film and TV industry in Nova Scotia.
What is it that you can say about the industry, the state of the industry for film and television in Nova Scotia right this very moment?
We are gangbusters. We've been incredibly busy. I haven't stopped since March. Like, that's no days off. That's like just straight on. So much so many things are happening here right now, and so many shows, and it's great. And I think that also quite a few people have come back, either moved back here, like we're talking about, like crew members or actors have moved back here, or are now just sort of coming back to work on shows and then going back to wherever they moved to when all the before they left. So that's great. So we're sort of building back our community. We are back. We hauled it out of the ashes, and now it's just a matter of trying to keep up with the demand and the number of shows that are happening here.
And for Sheldon's full conversation, head to the opinion section of saltwire.com. On to weather now. Alistair Alders is off this week. We're going to take a look at the 7-day forecast. High teens with sun and cloud heading into the weekend. Then the temperature will drop Sunday into Monday. Tuesday, mostly sunny and up to 16, and showers for Wednesday and Thursday. Well, that's all for now. For more extended video and full online articles, stay tuned to saltwire.com. And you can find us on Instagram and Twitter at SaltWire Today. I'm your host, Kate Walker. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.